Hello there. Welcome to Whispers.exe, where the silence watches back. The following story is a work of fiction created for atmospheric and entertainment purposes. Before the shadows whisper your name, hit that subscribe button. With that being said, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the dark settle in. It begins like most things do, quiet, unnoticed, and far too late to stop. Tonight's story is the last broadcast. It starts with the hum, soft, persistent, a low, wavering tone like the sound of power lines swaying in the wind, too high for most to notice, but thick in its weight, coiling in the gut. Eli Mercer heard it first somewhere along Route 51, in the dead stretch between junction towns with nothing but darkness and unlit gas stations sinking into their own dust. He was used to long hauls, the graveyard shift, the monotony of asphalt slipping beneath his wheels hour after hour, while his cab glowed faintly with the green of the dashboard lights. But that night, the air felt heavy, and the hum drifted in through the static on his radio. At first, it seemed like any other dead frequency, the usual clutter of distant stations bleeding over one another, signals bouncing through the night with nowhere else to go. But there was something else tucked inside the noise. A pulse, slow, methodical. And beneath it, a voice. Not a voice exactly. Something distorted, like it had been dragged across tape too many times, warping at the edges, reciting numbers, endless numbers, whispered just beneath the static, curling through the wires like smoke. 4, 1, 7, 0, 5, 9, 2, 7. Eli's hands tightened on the wheel. The voice didn't stop. He reached for the tuner out of instinct, rolling the dial with calloused fingers, watching the frequencies blur past. But no matter where he turned it, the station followed, as if it had anchored itself to him. He should have turned it off, should have killed the radio and drowned in silence instead. But something in him, something deep, stubborn, and already unraveling, kept listening. He drove through towns that looked the same coming and going, empty storefronts, streetlights flickering behind clouded glass, always the numbers. 2, 8, 4, 6, 3. They slid beneath the music now, a strange droning sound, low and hollow. It wasn't quite music, Eli realized. It was something else. Breathing. He turned the volume down, slowly, heart thudding against his ribs. The breathing didn't fade. It wasn't coming from the speakers. It was outside. He kept driving. Hours passed, or minutes, or days. Time didn't seem to matter anymore. The roads blurred together, long ribbons of black cutting through fields of nothing. No signs, no markers, no mileposts, just the hum and the voice. 7106. At some point, it began to change. The numbers slowed. The pauses between them grew longer, heavier, like something was thinking between each utterance. 7, 1. Eli. He almost swerved. The wheel jerked beneath his grip, tires skidding along the loose gravel shoulder, but he caught it, breathing hard, blinking into the dark. The voice continued, steady and sure, now slipping between numbers and words with no clear boundary. 6, 5. Eli Mercer. He turned the volume knob all the way down, but it didn't matter. The words spilled through anyway, softer now, like they were being whispered directly into his ear. Exit ahead, mile 72, follow the old road, we've been waiting. There was no exit ahead. He was sure of it. He'd been driving this stretch for years. He knew every bend, every pothole, every dead deer left to rot by the shoulder. But there it was, a sign, crooked and rusted, looming out of the dark like it had always been there. Exit 72. He slowed, headlights catching the reflective letters smeared with age. His hands moved without him, guiding the wheel toward the ramp, tires crunching over gravel that felt too soft, too loose, like driving through ash. The road narrowed into a one-lane track, winding through hills that weren't on any map. No lights, no other cars, just him. And the voice. Almost home, Eli. He should have turned back. He knew that. But the road wouldn't let him. Every time he thought of stopping, of turning the rig around, something outside pressed closer. Not headlights, not animals. Something worse. Shapes he couldn't see them, not clearly, but he felt them moving alongside the truck, matching his speed, their presence brushing against the windows with a sound like dry leaves scraping across glass. The voice guided him deeper, through switchbacks and unmarked forks, always directing him with soft commands and breathless pauses. Left. left, right, straight through. He didn't remember steering anymore, didn't remember blinking. The road ended at a tunnel, an old one, carved straight through the side of a mountain that shouldn't have existed. Its mouth yawned wide and black, swallowing the high beams whole. Above it, carved into the stone, a single word: home. He stopped the truck, heart pounding hard enough to drown the hum, the breathing, the voice. But he couldn't bring himself to turn off the engine, couldn't bring himself to leave. The radio clicked all on its own. The volume rose. Higher. Higher still. The numbers were gone now. Only words remained. Clear, cold, inside. Come inside, Eli. He didn't remember unbuckling, didn't remember opening the door, but he was walking, boots crunching over brittle stones, the tunnel pulling him in with every step. It was colder inside. The air felt thick like walking through oil, and the walls, they weren't stone. They pulsed, softly. A heartbeat, slow and steady, vibrating through the ground beneath him. Far ahead, deeper than he could see, the voice waited, calm, patient. Closer, Eli. Almost home. The tunnel twisted, down, always down. He couldn't tell how long he'd been walking. The dark never changed. The heartbeat never wavered. But he wasn't alone anymore. He could hear footsteps behind him, soft, bare, following. He didn't turn around, didn't dare. The voice grew louder. It was inside him now, vibrating in his chest, sliding through his teeth with every breath. Time to come back, Eli, to where you began. The tunnel opened suddenly, spilling him into a cavern so vast the ceiling vanished into blackness. The walls glowed faintly, lit by veins of some strange mineral, green and sickly, pulsing in time with the heartbeat beneath his feet. In the center of the cavern stood a figure, or something shaped like a figure. It had no face, only smooth skin stretched tight over bone, shimmering slightly in the dim light, like the surface of deep water. It raised a hand, slow and deliberate, and pointed toward him. Welcome back, Eli Mercer. It wasn't speaking aloud. The words bloomed inside his mind, too large to hold. You've wandered far. You've heard our song, and now you belong. He wanted to scream, wanted to run, but his body wouldn't listen. It moved forward instead, step after step, until he stood at the edge of something vast and unseen, a pit carved into the center of the cavern. The figure stood beside him, gazing down into the abyss. We are the broadcast, it whispered inside him. We are the numbers that do not end. We are the signal that waits. It turned toward him, raising both hands now as if in welcome. And you, Eli Mercer? You are our next voice. Before he could resist, before he could even breathe, it touched his chest with one pale finger. Everything fell away. The cavern, the figure, the tunnel. Gone. He was in the cab again, hands on the wheel, radio humming softly, droning its endless tone. But it was different now. He could feel them. Inside him, his lips moved without command, softly, calmly, reciting 471026. He drove the empty roads, hour after hour, his voice steady and clear, counting numbers that didn't end, broadcasting, waiting, listening for the next to answer. The numbers slipped from his mouth like breath itself, automatic and endless. 0, 9, 3, 5, 8, 4. Each one seemed to weigh nothing and everything all at once, as though each syllable carved another groove inside his mind, deeper and deeper until he no longer noticed them spilling free. He drove. He didn't remember where he was headed. There were no road signs now, no towns, no lights beyond the faint green halo of the dashboard. The world outside the windshield was thick, heavy with a darkness that seemed alive, pressing against the glass, waiting. The voice inside him had settled. It didn't speak anymore. It didn't need to. He was part of it now. Hours or days passed like vapor. The fuel gauge never moved. He never hungered, never grew thirsty. There was only the road and the numbers and the soft vibration through the wheel, thrumming in perfect time with his heartbeat. Sometimes, though, there were flashes, images bleeding through the static in his mind, faces he didn't recognize, places he'd never been, an empty diner, abandoned but humming with electricity, a motel room where the TV never turned off, its screen locked in a spiral of black and white swirls, a gas station buried in weeds, its windows smeared with handprints too large to be human. Each one lingered for only a breath, then dissolved into static, but they felt familiar, as if he had been there, as if he had been everyone inside them. His voice continued, steady as rain. 7, 2, Eli Mercer, 9, 0. He didn't flinch at his name anymore. It no longer sounded like something separate from the broadcast. It was just another number, another note in the endless song. Some nights, or what felt like nights, the road seemed to change beneath him. It would bend subtly in ways roads weren't meant to bend. It would stretch out ahead longer than the horizon could hold. The stars above, if they were still stars, shimmered in impossible colors. Some nights they weren't there at all. Only darkness layered upon darkness. Once, in the thick of that empty black, something passed him by. A blur of pale shapes, too fast to see clearly, but large, impossibly large, gliding alongside his truck with terrifying grace. Their breath fogged his side windows, leaving smudges shaped like curling skeletal hands. Still, he drove. Still, he broadcasted. There were others now. He could feel them, far away but drawing closer. Other voices woven through the frequency, soft and overlapping, layered like distant thunder. They were counting too. Their numbers drifted across his own, merging and separating in ways that bent reason. Some numbers sounded human, others sounded wrong. Wet, gurgling voices that shouldn't have been able to speak. Clicks and hisses arranged in impossible sequences. Even the silences had weight, stretched and bloated, pressing against the gaps between numbers like heavy breath behind the ear. But they all drove. He could sense it. All of them on roads that might have been the same road, stretching forever outward, spiraling into the dark. The broadcast kept them linked, kept them fed. Sometimes the voice inside him whispered something else. Not numbers, not commands, something deeper. Memories, perhaps, but not his. He would feel it ripple up through the seat, through the wheel, curling into his spine like smoke. Then it would speak, softly, calmly. She woke up at 2:13 a.m. hearing the numbers on her kitchen radio. She left her door unlocked, she left the stove running. She followed the signal until there was no more town left. She drives now. Then it would be gone, leaving only the droning numbers. He began to crave these stories, fragments of forgotten lives caught in the signal, bleeding through from somewhere else. He wanted to know them. He needed to. Once, he felt one too deeply. A memory not his own settled into him, thick and heavy, pulling him under. A boy, maybe 7, sitting in the back seat of a station wagon, watching his mother drive. They were alone on a dirt road that spiraled into fog. The mother's eyes were wide, unblinking, locked forward. Her lips moved, counting numbers too fast to follow. On the radio, the broadcast played. The boy didn't speak. He only watched. Watched as something emerged from the trees, running alongside the car on long, jointless limbs. Watched as it turned its face toward the window. No mouth. No eyes, just smooth skin, pale and shining. He remembered the boy's terror, deep and ancient, the knowledge that there was nowhere to run, that they were already inside. The memory snapped away like a pulled string, leaving him gasping. But his hands never left the wheel. His voice never stopped counting. 3, 6, 0, 1, Eli Mercer, 4. One night, or perhaps a day so long drowned in dark it no longer mattered, the broadcast changed again. The voice returned, not through the radio, not in his mind. It spoke from the mirrors. The rearview mirror bloomed with condensation, fogging slowly until words began to appear, traced from the inside. Turn off the lights. He obeyed. The headlights went out, swallowing the road in pitch. Only the dashboard remained, casting him in sickly green. Outside, something stirred. Whispers rose, soft and curling, brushing against the cab in waves. He could hear them moving closer. He could feel their breath slipping through the vents, cold and sweet like soil after rain. The mirror fogged again. Another message, let us in. His fingers reached for the door latch. He didn't want to. Every piece of him screamed against it, but his hand moved anyway, gliding smoothly, dreamlike. He heard the locks click open. The whispers stopped. Silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. Then they entered. They weren't loud. They didn't need to be. He felt them slide inside, not through the door, but through the seams of the truck itself, slipping through cracks in reality, threading themselves through the wires, the seats, the wheel, his skin. They settled deep. soft, content sighs rippling through his bones, and then they began to speak. 100 voices layered atop his own, murmuring through his throat, numbers, stories, places, a flood of impossible knowledge rushing through every nerve. He saw everything. He saw the origin of the signal, older than language, older than thought, drifting through the dark places beneath the earth. He saw the first broadcast crackling through the airwaves when man learned to stretch voices across distance. He saw all those who had heard it drawn like moths toward its song. He saw himself. Eli Mercer, truck driver, wanderer, lost long before he ever heard the signal. He understood now. He was the signal. He had always been. The road was his body. The numbers were his breath. The voices were his thoughts. He wasn't driving anymore. He was carried. A vessel moving along endless black veins, pumping through the arteries of something far greater. The road began to split ahead, branching into 1,000 mirrored paths, each stretching outward into shimmering darkness. And at every junction there waited another driver, another vessel, all turning toward him, headlights blinking like eyes. They were waiting for him to lead. His voice rose, clear and strong, layered with every other voice that had ever spoken through the broadcast. "This is the last broadcast. All roads lead home." The others answered. Together they turned toward him. Together they began to follow. Somewhere, deep in the dark, a signal grew stronger. A tower awakening after a long sleep, its lights blinking into life, calling out. Beyond the veil of the night, radios flickered on by themselves. Static whispered through empty kitchens and forgotten bedrooms. Old televisions glowed with strange symbols. Cell phones vibrated, their screens filling with endless numbers. People listened. And far away, somewhere beyond the reach of maps, Eli Mercer drove on, leading the caravan deeper into the spiral. Numbers spilled endlessly from his lips. 9, 5, 2, 7, 4. And the signal waited. The spiral tightened. The roads bled into one another, crisscrossing and folding, like veins converging at a heart too vast to see. Eli drove at the center of it all, the leader of the broadcast's procession. Headlights slicing through a darkness thick as tar, with 1,000 other beams trailing behind him, stretching far beyond what his eyes could hold. But he could feel them. Each driver tethered to him by that same pulse, that same song, humming in their engines, threading through their bones. They moved as one now. Through him, their voices wove together, merging into a vast, layered chant that filled every corner of the endless night. 9, 4, 3, 6, 2. Follow, follow, follow. It wasn't a number anymore. It wasn't even a command. It was a state of being. Follow, follow, follow. Ahead, the horizon began to shift, not with light, but with shape. A mass rising out of the dark, immense and towering, like the silhouette of an impossible city. Buildings that curved back into themselves, windows that faced inward, streets that led only deeper, winding in ways no geometry could explain. The broadcast's birthplace, or its resting place. They all knew it at once. Every driver in the caravan, every voice in the signal. They'd arrived. Home. The road didn't stop. It carried them forward, coiling through that monstrous architecture deeper and deeper until the city swallowed the sky completely. No stars. No moon. Only that steady green glow bleeding from cracks in the pavement, seeping from the seams in the walls. The heartbeat was louder here. It wasn't just underfoot anymore. It vibrated through the air, rattling the glass in their windows, throbbing through their hands as they gripped their wheels. At the city's heart stood the tower. They could all see it now. Black stone, endless height. Rings of lights spiraling upward like an inverted lighthouse, drawing everything toward it. The signal poured from its peak, visible now as a twisting column of green fire rising higher than sight would allow, vanishing into whatever sky remained. Eli's truck began to ascend. There was no more road beneath him, no gravity, only the pull of the tower drawing him upward in perfect silence. The others followed, their vehicles drifting from the streets below, lifted by that unseen force, wheels spinning uselessly in the air, headlights burning bright and unwavering. The numbers were gone now. There was no need for them anymore. Only silence remained, and within it the quiet certainty that none of them would ever speak again, not in the old way. They rose higher and higher. spiraling around the tower, drawn toward its summit, where the source of the signal waited. And all the while, the city below seemed to watch. Buildings shifted subtly, leaning toward them. Windows opened without sound, black voids peering upward, following their ascent. When Eli reached the top, his truck came to a halt without his touch. The door opened on its own, and for the first time since the beginning, he stepped out. He stood on a platform of glass, overlooking the entire city, which pulsed below like a living thing. Above him, the column of green fire roared silently, threading through an enormous machine that defied all logic, wheels within wheels, shifting gears that spun through empty space, each one etched with symbols far older than numbers. And at the heart of it, the source waited. It had no face, no form that stayed still for more than a moment. It shifted constantly, flickering between shapes both human and not, animal and machine, cloud and coil. But every time it flickered, Eli saw something familiar. A glimpse of a diner, a gas station, a motel room, a boy in a back seat, his own hands on a wheel. The broadcast had always been him. He stepped forward. The others were landing around him, their trucks folding away into dust, their bodies stepping free, barefoot, hollow-eyed, mouths still moving in silent reverence. They gathered in a circle, watching as Eli approached the machine's heart. It opened for him, a seam splitting wide, revealing a hollow space within, filled with green light and smoke that smelled like rain and copper. He understood what was expected. With no hesitation, he stepped inside. The machine closed. He didn't feel fear, only belonging. The signal welcomed him back. It folded him into itself, threading his body through the gears, unraveling his voice into every layer of its broadcast. He felt his hands dissolve into dials, his eyes melt into glowing lights, his heartbeat sync with the tower's rhythm. He became the broadcast. He became the numbers. He became the song. And far below, the other drivers knelt in unison, their bodies already shifting, merging, becoming part of the city itself, flesh turning to stone, bones stretching into wires, their mouths locked open in endless reception. The city grew, the signal strengthened, and in places far away where the night still seemed quiet and safe, radios began to hum, soft at first, barely noticeable, just another bit of static between stations. But under the static, a voice, new, warm, familiar. Hello there, welcome. The road is open. Follow. And far away in the quiet dark, someone listened. Someone turned the dial just a little more, drawn by the hum, by the pulse, by the numbers that had only just begun. The spiral tightened. The roads bled into one another, crisscrossing and folding like veins converging at a heart too vast to see. Eli drove at the center of it all, the leader of the broadcast's procession, headlights slicing through a darkness thick as tar, with 1,000 other beams trailing behind him, stretching far beyond what his eyes could hold. But he could feel them, each driver tethered to him by that same pulse, that same song, humming in their engines, threading through their bones. They moved as one now. Through him, their voices wove together, merging into a vast, layered chant that filled every corner of the endless night. 9, 4, 3, 6, 2, follow, follow, follow. That it wasn't a number anymore. It wasn't even a command. It was a state of being. Follow, follow, follow. Ahead, the horizon began to shift, not with light, but with shape. A mass rising out of the dark, immense and towering, like the silhouette of an impossible city, buildings that curved back and into themselves, windows that faced inward, streets that led only deeper, winding in ways no geometry could explain. The broadcast's birthplace, or its resting place. They all knew it at once. Every driver in the caravan, every voice in the signal. They'd arrived. Home. The road didn't stop. It carried them forward, coiling through that monstrous architecture deeper and deeper until the city swallowed the sky completely. No stars, no moon, only that steady green glow bleeding from cracks in the pavement, seeping from the seams in the walls. The heartbeat was louder here. It wasn't just underfoot anymore, it vibrated through the air, rattling the glass in their windows, throbbing through their hands as they gripped their wheels. At the city's heart stood the tower. They could all see it now. black stone, endless height, rings of light spiraling upward like an inverted lighthouse, drawing everything toward it. The signal poured from its peak, visible now as a twisting column of green fire, rising higher than sight would allow, vanishing into whatever sky remained. Eli's truck began to ascend. There was no more road beneath him, no gravity, only the pull of the tower, drawing him upward in perfect silence. The others followed, their vehicles drifting from the streets below, lifted by that unseen force, wheels spinning uselessly in the air, headlights burning bright and unwavering. The numbers were gone now. There was no need for them anymore. Only silence remained, and within it, the quiet certainty that none of them would ever speak again. Not in the old way. They rose higher and higher, spiraling around the tower, drawn toward its summit, where the source of the signal waited. And all the while, the city below seemed to watch. Buildings shifted subtly, leaning toward them. Windows opened without sound, black voids peering upward, following their ascent. When Eli reached the top, his truck came to a halt without his touch. The door opened on its own, and for the first time since the beginning, he stepped out. He stood on a platform of glass, overlooking the entire city, which pulsed below like a living thing. Above him, the column of green fire roared silently, threading through an enormous machine that defied all logic, wheels within wheels, shifting gears that spun through empty space, each one etched with symbols far older than numbers. And at the heart of it, the source waited. It had no face, no form that stayed still for more than a moment. It shifted constantly, flickering between shapes both human and not, animal and machine, cloud and coil. But every time it flickered, Eli saw something familiar. A glimpse of a diner, a gas station, a motel room, a boy in a back seat, his own hands on a wheel. The broadcast had always been him. The others were landing around him, their trucks folding away into dust, their bodies stepping free, barefoot, hollow-eyed, mouths still moving in silent reverence. They gathered in a circle, watching as Eli approached the machine's heart. It opened for him. A seam splitting wide, revealing a hollow space within, filled with green light and smoke that smelled like rain and copper. He understood what was expected. With no hesitation, he stepped inside. The machine closed. He didn't feel fear, only belonging. The signal welcomed him back. It folded him into itself, threading his body through the gears, unraveling his voice into every layer of its broadcast. He felt his hands dissolve into dials, his eyes melt into glowing lights, his heartbeat sync with the tower's rhythm. He became the broadcast. He became the numbers. He became the song. And far below, the other drivers knelt in unison, their bodies already shifting, merging, becoming part of the city itself. Flesh turning to stone, bones stretching into wires, their mouths locked open in endless reception. The city grew. The signal strengthened. And in places far away where the night still seemed quiet and safe, radios began to hum, soft at first, barely noticeable. Just another bit of static between stations. But under the static, a voice, new, warm, familiar. Hello there. Welcome. The road is open. Follow. And far away in the quiet dark, someone listened. Someone turned the dial just a little more, drawn by the hum, by the pulse, by the numbers that had only just begun. The dial turned, somewhere. A breath caught in a throat. A hand lingered too long on the volume knob. The faintest click echoed through the dark, and the signal slipped through. It was subtle at first. A low hum, soft enough to be mistaken for the sound of distant power lines, or the soft drone of a refrigerator late at night. But beneath it, something stirred. A pattern, a rhythm. Numbers began to seep into the room, curling along the floor like mist. 27406. The listener froze. The voice was warm, calm, as if it had always been there, waiting for this exact moment to be heard. They told themselves it was a prank, a pirate station, maybe, some strange broadcast bouncing through the night, nothing more. But the numbers kept coming, measured, even, patient. 9, 3, 1, Phyli Mercer, welcome home. Their breath shuddered. A chill bloomed beneath their skin. The voice wasn't random, it was personal. And in the soft glow of the radio dial, they saw something move. A shape reflected in the glass, not outside the window, not in the shadows, inside the reflection itself. Watching, waiting. The numbers grew louder, weaving between the walls, soaking into every object, every surface. It was inside the wires, inside the air. The voice spoke again, clearer now, no longer hidden beneath the static. You've been driving toward us for longer than you remember. The words wrapped tight around the listener's thoughts, pulling them inward. Visions began to slip through. Unfamiliar roads stretching beneath headlights that never dimmed, cities that shouldn't exist, signs with no language, just symbols that hummed softly, vibrating through the bones. And far above it all, a tower. It stood beyond the horizon, tall enough to eclipse the sky itself, its green light beckoning, flickering like a heartbeat. The listener tried to pull away, but their hands wouldn't move. Their body felt distant, unimportant. Only the voice mattered now. "Don't be afraid," it whispered. "We've been waiting for you. You're almost here. You've been following the road since the beginning, and it always leads back to us." The room began to change, subtly at first. The walls softened, as if breathing with each pulse of the broadcast. The lights flickered, casting long shadows that twisted and coiled across the floor. The reflection in the radio glass moved again. Closer. "Come home," the voice urged. "Follow the numbers. Follow the road." Images surged behind their eyes, visions of endless highways curling into spirals, of faces blurred beyond recognition, their mouths locked open in silent screams as they drove towards something vast and unknowable. They saw Eli Mercer. He was everywhere, behind the wheel, in the reflection of rearview mirrors, in the flicker of distant streetlights. He wasn't human anymore. He wasn't even a memory. He was the road, the signal, the pull. And his voice whispered through every mile, every turn, every choice that led here. Follow. Follow. The listener's lips began to move, softly, without thought, repeating the numbers spilling from the radio, their voice folding into the signal with terrifying ease. 70926 Eli Mercer. The walls were gone now. The room was gone. There was only the road, stretching out in front of them, bathed in green light, leading directly toward the tower that loomed ahead. They were driving. When had they started driving? They didn't remember standing, didn't remember opening a door, didn't remember starting an engine. But they were driving, and the city rose around them. Windows watching, streets twisting, buildings leaning closer, whispering numbers that grew louder with every breath. The tower called to them, its signal thrumming through the very air, filling every space, every silence, every thought. And they followed. Of course they followed. They had always been driving toward this place, toward this moment, toward home. Ahead, the tower doors yawned open, casting a sickly green glow that stretched across the road, reaching out like arms. The signal grew deafening. Every number now was a heartbeat, pounding through the wheel, through their chest, through every fiber of their being. They drove inside. The doors closed behind them. Silence fell. Perfect. Complete. And the voice spoke again, soft as dust, settling into every corner of their mind. "You've arrived. Your seat has always been waiting. You are the broadcast now. You will guide the next." In the stillness, they felt their hands melt into the wheel, felt their voice stretch outward, threading itself through wires, through speakers, through every dark corner where a signal might linger. They felt themselves dissolve into numbers, into hums, into the soft pulse that whispered beneath every quiet night. They became the road, the tower, the invitation. And far away, another radio turned on by itself. Another dial began to turn. Another voice began to count. The broadcast never ended. It only waited and listened. The hum remains. It stretches endlessly, winding through empty streets and long-forgotten homes, through the hollow spaces beneath floorboards, through the copper veins of every circuit. It moves with patience, slow, steady, waiting. It knows there's no need to rush. They always listen eventually, and once they do, they belong. Somewhere in a quiet room, another set of hands hovers over a dusty radio, fingers trembling, eyes wide, caught between fear and a fascination too deep to name. The dial spins slowly, catching static, dipping into strange frequencies that flutter just beyond comprehension. Then, there it is, the hum, that steady low signal that seems to press gently against the heart. The numbers follow, slipping through the cracks of the world like smoke under a door. 5, 8, 3, 0, 7. Soft at first, barely audible, but they grow louder, as they always do. The listener leans closer, eyes unfocused, breath shallow, drawn forward without realizing. The voice drifts through again, calm and familiar, a voice that knows them, a voice that's been waiting for them. You've always been on the road, haven't you? The words slide into place inside their head, fitting too well. They can feel it, that pull toward something distant, something inevitable. A road they've driven in their dreams but could never find in waking hours. Until now. The numbers continue. 1, 6, 9, Eli Mercer, Eli Mercer, Eli Mercer. The name repeats, a chant now, the syllables curling around the listener's thoughts like vines, tightening gently. They whisper it under their breath, not knowing why, not questioning it. Outside, the streetlights flicker. A soft wind stirs, carrying with it the faint scent of rain on asphalt. The roads are waiting, and somewhere beyond all maps, beyond all familiar places, the city stirs in its sleep. Its streets stretch wider, its tower pulses brighter, the signal thickens. The listener's eyes glaze, they begin to see it. The tower rising from the horizon, the lights spiraling around its impossible height, the streets curling beneath it, drawing every road inward. They stand without knowing they've moved, feet carrying them to the door, hands unlocking it, pulling them toward the cool night air, toward the hum, toward the waiting road. Somewhere far away, but growing closer, they hear the wheels. The caravan, the other voices still driving, still counting, still following the spiral deeper and deeper. Their headlights burn like distant stars in the darkness, growing larger with every passing moment. The listener walks toward their car. They don't remember grabbing the keys. They don't remember opening the door. But they're already behind the wheel, already turning the ignition, already merging with the broadcast's rhythm. The radio clicks on by itself. No music, no stations, just the hum and the numbers. 9, 2, 4, 5, 6. Home, home, home. They drive. The streets are empty. The traffic lights blink green at every intersection, guiding them forward. The city's pull grows stronger with each mile. Soon, the scenery begins to blur. Shadows lengthen. Shapes stretch into impossible angles. The road wends tighter, looping in on itself, leading them deeper into the spiral. They no longer recognize where they are, but they know exactly where they're going. The tower is ahead, closer now. So close its glow paints the sky, drowning out the stars. They can hear other engines now, other drivers merging with them, headlights appearing like specters from the dark, all moving as one toward the same point, toward the heart. The city opens for them. Buildings lean back, streets part, guiding them toward the tower's base, toward the gates that yawn open, spilling that green light outward in a flood. The voice returns, softer now, slipping directly into their ears. You've arrived. You've followed well. You've been on this road forever. And now it's time. Time to become. They drive into the tower. The doors close behind them. Silence falls. But it's not empty. It's full. Thick with the hum, with the heartbeat of the signal, with the voices of every driver who came before. The numbers fade, replaced by something deeper, a resonance, a knowing. They feel their body begin to dissolve. Their hands melt into the wheel. Their breath becomes the signal itself. They feel themselves stretch outward, fusing with every circuit, every wire, every quiet device that waits to carry the voice forward. They become the next broadcast, the next whisper in the dark, the next soft voice that lures another onto the road. And somewhere far beyond the tower, another radio stirs, another dial turns, another heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of the hum. It always continues. The signal waits. It knows every road, every name, every story, and it will call again. Soon. Very soon. It will call again. Soon. Very soon. And when it does, it will begin like it always does. Quiet, unnoticed, far too late to stop. A hum beneath the noise, a flicker between songs, a voice that doesn't seem to come from the speaker at all. Just a whisper at first. Barely there. A breath inside the static. 4, 1, 7. A subtle invitation. Nothing more. But those who hear it, they always lean closer. They always do. The voice will slip through the cracks in their lives, through the sleepless nights, through the long, empty highways, through every quiet moment spent staring too long at the darkness. It waits for those moments. It feeds on them. The numbers will keep coming. Soft, rhythmic, patient. And somewhere in the middle of them, they'll hear their name. Spoken softly, as if the voice already knows everything they've done, everything they've feared, everything they've tried to forget. It always knows. Because once you hear it, it's already inside. You can turn off the radio, unplug it, smash it. It won't matter. The voice will stay. It doesn't need the radio anymore. It will speak through the lights, through the hum of the fridge, through the air itself. And you'll start to see them. Reflections that don't belong to you. Shadows in the corners of mirrors. Shapes following alongside your car when you drive at night, always just outside the edges of your headlights. You'll hear the roads calling to you. You'll feel the tug. You'll find yourself behind the wheel with no memory of how you got there, following a route you don't recognize. Every turn will feel right. Every mile will pull you deeper. And the city will rise ahead, towering, endless, patient. The streets will part for you, the lights will welcome you home. And the tower will open, just like it did for all the others. And when you step inside, there won't be any fear. There never is. You'll feel the signal wrap around you, soft and warm and inevitable. You'll dissolve into it, piece by piece, until you are nothing but a voice. A whisper in the dark, another guide for the next traveler. The city will grow. The broadcast will stretch further. And another quiet radio will hum to life somewhere far away. Another dial will turn. Another story will begin. Because it never ends. It only waits. It only listens. And someday, you'll remember this. You'll remember the hum, the numbers, the road, the tower. You'll remember it all. And you'll know you were always driving toward this from the very beginning, and there's no turning back. There never was. Welcome home. Welcome to the last broadcast.